So, today we're going to do some combustion analysis, and we're going to do the cheap carbon monoxide meter. So I moved near it, which obviously sets them off, because they're cheap. Actually waving them about sets them off usually. Sometimes rubbing them on things, yeah, if you rub on something, that sets them off. They're cheap, got to set the one off next to cheap. This is my old one I've had for a while. This is a brand new one that's fresh out of the packet. You can see if I even move so much as near it, it kind of sets off. This is a TPI DC710 combustion gas analyzer. I have a story to tell about TPI and the DC710, and I'll keep that for the end of this video. It's quite interesting. If you stay at the end of the video and listen to it, I'd be much appreciated. In the setup today, we have obviously two carbon monoxide meters. The DC710, which is connected to the probe stabbed into the, right, there it is. Probe stabbed into exhaust. This is the probe. It's just basically it's a long tube that goes back to the main box, which has got a pump in it that sucks combustion gas through, and it's got an inline water filter. And I've added the oil filter. You add that in for, well, combustible oils like diesel, kerosene, etc., and it filters out the sulfur, I think. But anyway, that's stabbed into the exhaust hole there, stabbed in that way. And we've got the rest of the exhaust coming this way, and I've got a big tin I'm going to put on the end so we can kind of capture. Is capture the right word? We're going to have more of the carbon monoxide in the tin, hopefully, and get a better reading without melting this again, because I've already melted the end of it. Hence, that's why I brought the brand new one, just in case. So we'll do a bit of adjustment on the fly and see how that alters the carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, excess air, and all the other bits and bobs. Now, the main reason we're using the DC710 is because it works from your smartphone. You turn it on, you connect your instrument, and everything that happens on your phone, but it means we have the benefit of being able to do a screen record, all the audio, capture device, audio, and microphone. Go! So now on screen, I'll be able to show you what values the thing is and what we're doing at the same time, and not have to try and focus on the gas analyzer. So there we are at the moment. Our oxygen is 20.9 because we are in the planet Earth. Oh, and we have a temperature difference of 9.1 degrees. That's interesting. Okay, apologies for me fiddling about because I'm playing with the temperature sensors here. Right, let's fire up the heater. That's not the controller there, because of course I have this unique ability to always have the wrong heater plugged in wherever I go. So what hopefully we should be able to see now is, oh, I forgot to put my tin on. That's what I'm missing, the tin. I don't know why I don't actually need this to set this anywhere because we're doing a screen capture on it. I just need to be able to see it with my eyes. Alright, let's put our big tin on the end here before the exhaust gets hot. Go on. Come on. Come on, you son of a bitch. Right. So that's be able to sit there, like that. A big tin, and then we'll be able to poke the carbon monoxide meters in the end and get a kind of better reading, hopefully. But it'll be interesting to see what the difference is. How can you? Oh, I'm turning them off already. Stop beeping. Oh, that one's really sensitive to something. I don't know what though. Hands are now greasy. Great. Okay. So we're doing the glow pluggy bit at the moment. As we can see, the temperature is climbing. Temperature 1 probe is the one that's inside the exhaust. Right. We have now ignition, mostly. I'm going to poke you in here, just see what kind of reading we get in there. Right, so in there that's saying 90. Oh, does help if I start the pump on the thing. Right, let's go from there. Now we should be able to read the carbon monoxide. A pretty high start, yeah, 90, 200, 500. This will probably give me an alarm soon to tell me to leave the building. Yeah, sure. I mean, we're okay, we know. Right, we're at 1 yellow bar just now, so we'll let this run up to full hertz, 5.5 hertz. We'll take it right up to top temperature. Okay, so the TPI is showing us anywhere between 71, like, oh, there it goes down to 68, 66, 65. Well, we just called it 70-ish parts per million carbon monoxide. Carbon dioxide, 8.8%, oxygen 9%, excess air 76%, and our probe temperature and our actual outlet air temperature, well, the housing temperature. 250, does this one show No, this controller doesn't show housing temperatures, unfortunately. Right, let's see what the cheap carbon monoxide meter says. So that says 25, that one. Oh, that one says 20, saw 25 once. That says around 20s. So we'll have to bear in mind that the carbon monoxide out here at this level obviously won't be what is the same as actual inside the very exhaust itself. Oh, right. That's the housing got to its top temperature. I just heard the pump slow down. And the parts per million is actually going up now, we can see on the TPI. That's interesting. Our oxygen excess air is going up as well, so we're actually blowing a lot more air through. Yeah, wow, there goes the... And now it's come back. The pump's come back up to full speed. So that there is that has seen it's doing its too hot, throttling back the fuel, it basically almost goes out. Wow, yeah, that's quite interesting. So from this we know our housing temperature is way too hot because it's clipping out, hitting max temperature and then having to throttle the fuel pump back, which generates even more carbon monoxide, which generates soot. So we need to find the sweet spot of it having the right fan speed and right fuel speed and keeping the housing temperature at the right temperature so it doesn't throttle us back. So let's stick to 4,000 RPM and let's take the fueling all the way back and let's see what happens. What's the lowest top? Right, the lowest top fueling we can get is 3.5. Right, now we've got a lot more carbon monoxide, even on these cheap sensors. That's showing 40, 50, 50, 48, 50, 48, 50. Let's see what the other one says. $47. Means we're a holder. High 40s. So, as we can see, the parts per million carbon monoxide in there is quite high, and that's a lot of excess air going through. So, let's take the fan speed down. So that's shown as 15 to 20 parts per million. That's shown as none. Great. I mean, I could hold them at the same time. That would be... Hope they don't interfere with each other. I mean, they're not quite both in the same place, so that's another thing. Somewhere between 15 and 20. But inside the exhaust we're showing... Oh, I just dropped down there. Ah, now wait, is it now doing that thing? Let me see if it goes really high, really low, really high, really low. Okay, so that's showing us 40, which is kind of what we started with everything's really hot. Why am I standing here? I mean, that's showing me about 20 parts per million, 20. We've still got 2 reds on there. This moving about's too much fun. Well, we'll just hold it down here. See, it shows nothing because it's not in the right. Oh wait, there's an 18, 11. I'll point it into it a bit. Maybe I should have gone in the side of my tin. I'm noticing it's going up and down the parts per million a lot here. But this time we haven't tripped out the temperature sensor on the housing. It's not hit, you know, too hot and it's throttled back. So we're staying more consistent. Right, let me just check those settings so we've got, so I can tell you what they are. Not what they are, because I mean it's not relevant to your installation because there's no silencer in this thing, there's nothing. It's just more academic than anything else. So we don't need to worry about the low side, we're not worried about it. 3.5 Hz high and 3,500 RPM. Right, let's shut it down and let's talk about it. Right, let us unpump that just now so it can suck thingy here. And stop pump. Well, what have we learned from stabbing our probe directly into the exhaust and also trying to measure carbon monoxide on the output? Well, I've learned that the carbon monoxide coming, well, in the exhaust is a lot different than the actual carbon monoxide that's getting blown out. Which, now that I think about it, makes perfect sense, because as that's blown out, it has to pull air alongside with it, and then we're getting a mostly inaccurate reading. But we'll be able to do an offset of what's actually in the exhaust versus what comes out, and we'll be able to see what our sensor should be reading at for what's actually in the exhaust. And I've learned that the fuel and air ratio, it's more complicated than I gave it credit for. By that I mean, even though you can set it to 5 Hz and 5,000 RPM, this heater was still pegging the hottest temperature setting and then actually having to throttle back. And as we saw from the throttling back, what that does is make a lot more carbon monoxide as it does it, because it basically cuts the fuel, the burn chamber not goes out, but it kind of, the flame dies and it drops down, then you get a lot of carbon monoxide, and then it turns the fuel back up again and it ramps back up again. So we really don't want it to be doing that oscillating of, really hot, down to cold, really hot, down to cold. So we need to dial back the fan speed and the fuel speed so we can stay hot, minimal carbon monoxide, but also stay under that threshold of the housing getting too hot and it throttling back the fueling, because obviously we don't want that. That kind of kills your efficiency and wastes fuel. So we're going to have to do more experiments, methinks. Well, I'm going to have to do more experiments. I might not film them, but I'm going to dick about in here and tune the heater more once I can stand out the way of the hot exhaust and actually see what settings, because I can turn the fan up a little bit and down a little bit and turn the fuel up a little bit and down a little bit and see what happens then. Yeah, so I'm going to play about with that some more. Right, what do I want to say about tuning? Well, not really tuning. About the comparison between using a combustion gas analyzer and the cheap carbon monoxide meters. Well, obviously on the expensive combustion analyzer, you've got a lot more data to play with. So you've got carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, like excess air, you can measure your exhaust temperature and your housing temperature and basically have all of those things on display at the same time. Whereas with your carbon monoxide meter, you're just kind of getting a rough reading of carbon monoxide mixed with outside oxygen as it leaves the exhaust. Because obviously, well, you've seen in my one, I've already melted the end of it. You see that one's, I've had to re-drill the caps out, but if you put that too close to your exhaust and hold it for too long, it melts the end, and they really don't like that. It really upsets them. But it doesn't seem to have done the sensor any damage. But obviously, that's the kind of level of inaccuracy you're going to get with. What we should do at some point is take a comparatory carbon monoxide reading, like leave it running, set, tuned, and then see what this carbon monoxide is inside the exhaust compared to what that tells you, the cheap ones tell you is, and then we'll be able to see, like, we'll be able to have an offset to work with. That makes sense. But yeah, so obviously this is very expensive, and don't expect your everyday person to rush out and buy one of these just to tune their diesel heater. But it is interesting. I don't know if you're maybe, say, an installer, or you fit a lot of diesel heaters and you want to make sure they're as possibly well tuned as you can possibly get before they leave you. Perhaps something like this might be advantageous to have in your arsenal of tools for setting up your diesel heaters. The other thing, a few people have sent me the video of the guy tuning them with no tools whatsoever. I don't want to ruin what he said by me paraphrasing it, but you're basically turning the fuel and air and adjusting it and waiting to get like 2 red bars, and then wait for 1 red bar to go out, and then you turn it up a little bit, and then that's you've tuned it as good as it's going to be. I do not know if this is accurate, and it's something I'd like to test using our combustion gas analyzer and our carbon monoxide meters. So if we just start with a base reading of set this to maximum and get a reading from there, and then do it his way and actually have readings as we're doing it and see how accurate his way of doing it is. The only problem I can see is this heater took like literally 5 minutes of no fueling to go down from 2 red bars to 1 red bar. So there's going to be a long process of doing it. So I probably won't film all of it. I'll just do snippets of it as I adjust it and take the measurements and do things. But that's for next time. And if you stayed to the end of the video, thank you very much. And I'm going to tell my story about the TPI here. So I wanted a combustion gas analyzer. And as you do, well, for me, I don't need it to be calibrated. I'm not a central heating engineer or a gas boiler fitter. I could do with a second-hand one. So I went on eBay and I purchased the TPI 716 from a seller. He said it was all good working order, just needed calibrated. Now I'd looked at a few meters, and some of them, once they're out of calibration, they don't work. They just cease to exist. But the instructions set that I read on the TPI 716, it basically showed the screen showing calibration due, but you could hit next and go past it. It just recommended you not do that because you're now contributing BS, whatever it is, number, and basically your test meter's illegal and you shouldn't use it for any, certified testing, but you should still be able to use it. So I thought that was fine. I bought it and it arrived. I turned it on and it said calibration due. And that was it. You couldn't do anything else with it apart from that. It was also 716 days overdue for calibration. So I'm not entirely sure how the guy was selling it as, fully working, if it hadn't run in like nearly 2 years. So I was curious about that. Anyway, so what happened was, I thought, it's not hugely expensive to send them away and have them calibrated. So I sent an email to TPI. I think is it TPI Europe? Is their UK-based website. So I sent an email to them and said, hi, I've got the TP716 here. It's out of calibration. I'm not a gas engineer or anything. I just make YouTube videos, mostly testing diesel heaters and whatnot. I don't need it to be certified. I just need it to work. Can you flash it with a firmware that doesn't need calibration? And TPI replied and said, okay, so if you're not using it for gas installation stuff, and if you're going to be making YouTube videos with it, could we send you a TPI DC710, because it uses your smartphone and you can record your videos on your phone, so you can capture the data that way. And if you show this off in the video, we're quite happy to send you it for nothing, as long as you swap us back the old unit that you bought. So I quite happily boxed up my pretty much not working the TP716, put it in a box, sent it to them, and Nigel at TPI very kindly sent me one of these back. This is still the old probe from the old setup, because basically, as I say, it's a stick with a hose in the end of it. There's nothing high-tech about that, and a temperature probe. There's nothing exciting about that. But this is a really nice thing. It's so nice. It's got a hook, which is nice, but it's also got giant magnets in it, so you can stick it to, well, it would be the side of your gas boiler. But had the cover been on this diesel heater, we could have stuck it to the side of the diesel heater. But for us, it's ideal that we can record the actual data on our phones, so we can have this camera pointed at everything and still be able to capture the data that we need to from the heater output. So we're going to be using that more for more testing of outputs and carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, and testing efficiency of diesel heaters and other things, and just playing with it in general, because I like to play with things like that. It is very cool. And looking at the app, I'm sure they've got like a whole line of wireless things you can connect to, like pressure testers and thermometers and pipe clamps and all other sorts of things. So I just wanted to say thank you very much to TPI for sending me this, and it's going to become, well, it's going to be very useful when we're playing with these diesel heaters. And I'd also like to thank everyone else that stayed to the end of the video to listen to me tell the story about the nice people at TPI, and there's still actual nice companies out there that aren't just in it for themselves. They're actually out to help us. Oh, my temperature probe's falling out. Maybe that's not helping. Stay in there, temperature probe thing. Anyway, any questions, comments, leave them down below. I'll try my best to answer them. And as always, thanks for watching.